Let's jump right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood corporate thriller. But believe it or not, it's actually a stunning real-life masterclass in the consequences of pure arrogance. We're looking at The Father's Debt, the fall of Kingston Technologies. It's this incredibly dramatic, high-stakes story of a celebrated corporate titan who made just one single, fatal miscalculation. A mistake that literally erased 2 decades of work in a matter of minutes. So, to really grasp how an entire corporate empire can just vanish so quickly, we have to start with a crazy question. How did one single phone call destroy a billionaire's 20-year empire? Right? Just picture this for a second. Kingston Technologies is throwing its annual Leadership Excellence Gala. It's a huge deal. There are 400 employees, business partners, even local news crews are there. You've got gleaming chandeliers, a live orchestra playing. It's the whole shebang. And CEO Richard Kingston calls Emily Carter up to the stage in front of absolutely everyone. Emily is an executive who's 7 months pregnant, by the way, and she's poured 8 years of her life into building this company. And this is where the sickening irony of the whole setup really hits you. Behind them, massive screens in the ballroom are glowing with the company's big slogan, "People first, always." Right. So Emily gets up there thinking she's being recognized for all her hard work. Richard hands her this crisp white envelope, flashes a big smile for the cameras, and says right into the microphone, "For your years of service." Well, Emily opens the envelope, and you can practically feel the shock ripple through the entire room. Because it wasn't a bonus check. It definitely wasn't a promotion. It was a termination notice, effective immediately. Now, the absolute crucial thing to understand here is the calculated cruelty of what he just did. Richard Kingston wasn't just firing a pregnant employee, which is bad enough, but he was purposefully doing it in the most public, humiliating way imaginable. He wanted to make sure everyone watching knew exactly who held the power. To him, she was just a warning to the rest of the staff. The secret plot. 8 years of loyalty betrayed. So, how in the world did things get to this point? Well, Emily wasn't entirely blindsided. She had actually stumbled onto Richard's plot a few weeks prior while working late on some quarterly reports. And the sheer malice of the boardroom conversation she overheard, it is just staggering. Another executive actually pointed out the obvious, the legal risks of firing a pregnant woman. And Richard's response? He literally laughed. He laughed and said they just document fake performance issues. His brilliant plan was to build this completely fabricated paper trail claiming her work was slipping. He figured by the time she hired a lawyer, the damage would be done. Think about that. She had given 8 years of total loyalty, pulled crazy 48-hour shifts to save major contracts, and he just reduced all of that to a liability that needed a fake paper trail. Okay, so snapping back to the gala, the termination notice is literally trembling in Emily's hands. The room has gone dead silent. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Hundreds of her coworkers are just staring at the floor, totally terrified for their own jobs. Then Richard leans in close, right? So only she can hear him, and he whispers, "Walk away quietly, Emily. You've already lost." He is fully expecting her to just break down, to slink away in tears of shame. But Emily absolutely refuses to break. She looks at the letter, folds it up carefully, and she doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. Instead, she reaches into her purse, pulls out her phone, and pulls up a single contact. Dad. Now, for years she had promised herself she would build her own career from the ground up, totally without his help. But today wasn't about her pride. It was about protecting her unborn child. So, she pressed call. Her dad answers, and she just says, "Dad, I need you." He doesn't ask what's wrong. He doesn't hesitate for a second. He just says, "I'm on my way." Now, Richard actually laughs at this on stage, mocking her for calling her family to come save her from a business dispute. But what happens next is this agonizing 38-minute wait. Inside the ballroom, there's this weak, super uncomfortable applause as Richard tries to keep the gala moving along like nothing happened. But outside in the pouring rain, 5 black SUVs quietly pull up to the hotel's entrance. A silver-haired man steps out of the lead SUV. No bodyguards, just this quiet, absolute aura of confidence. He walks right through the ballroom doors, and instantly, total silence falls over the room all over again. The executives on stage start exchanging these terrified, pale glances. Which, really begs the question. Who exactly was Michael Carter? Because Michael Carter wasn't just some dad coming to pick up his kid. He is the founder and chairman of Carter Capital. We are talking about a true titan in the financial world, a firm managing billions upon billions of dollars in corporate investments. He's easily one of the most respected and powerful men in the entire country. But here's the thing. He wasn't walking across that marble floor as a businessman. He was there purely as a father checking on his daughter. He walked right past all the flashing cameras, ignored the executives, put his hands on Emily's shoulders, and just asked if she was okay. And this brings us to an absolutely massive punch-counter-punch moment. After making sure Emily is all right, Michael turns his calm gaze to Richard Kingston. Richard, desperately trying to maintain his alpha dog status, tells Michael he has no authority here, waving it off as an internal company matter. But Michael's response? It completely instantly flips the power dynamic. He just looks at him and says, "It was. The moment you humiliated my daughter, it became mine."
Richard lets out this nervous little laugh, trying to brush it off. But Michael doesn't argue. He just reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, and makes this incredibly calm, cryptic call. 2 words. He just says, "Start now." Then he hangs up, looks Richard dead in the eye, and tells him he's about to find out exactly what kind of authority he has.
The empire falls, a billionaire's rapid downfall.
The utter destruction of Richard's 20-year career happens in this crazy rapid-fire sequence, and it proves such a fascinating point. The truth doesn't always win quickly, but when it finally does, it wins completely. The sheer terrifying speed of this collapse is just staggering. Less than 60 seconds after Michael's 2-word phone call, Richard's phone starts vibrating relentlessly in his pocket. His CFO rushes over in a panic to report that 3 major institutional investors have instantly suspended all funding. Within minutes, the board of directors is frantically jumping onto an emergency video call because federal regulators are suddenly knocking, demanding company documents. And within 1 hour, Richard is slapped with immediate administrative leave. It's just a stunning, brutal domino effect.
Now, a super crucial point to understand here is that Michael Carter didn't hack Kingston Technologies. He didn't plant fake evidence. Later, when Emily asks him what he actually did, he calmly tells her, "I didn't destroy his company. I simply asked people to take a closer look." And wow, when investigators actually looked closely, they found all the buried secrets Richard had been hiding for years. We're talking highly questionable accounting practices, massive payments to completely fake shell companies, millions of dollars in totally unexplained transactions, thousands of deleted internal emails. Richard wasn't just a toxic, arrogant boss, he was a fundamentally corrupt CEO. And just notice the complete 180-degree reversal of power here. Barely an hour later, Richard walks back into that same ballroom. His tie is yanked loose, his hands are visibly shaking, and that trademark arrogance, completely gone. He walks right up to Emily and actually starts begging. He's pleading, "I'm willing to reverse your termination. I'll double your salary. Just please make this stop." But Emily just looks at him, completely stoic. She tells him it was never about the money. She just wanted the basic respect she deserved from day one. The absolute final blow lands right there in the ballroom. The televisions around the rooms suddenly switch over to live financial news, which is officially announcing Richard's removal pending a massive federal investigation. 20 years of ruthless empire building. Just gone. Poof. Richard has to walk out the side exit of his very own gala, completely alone. There are no cameras following in this time and certainly no employees clapping for him. A new beginning. Building an empire on empathy.
Now, the story shifts gears from this intense corporate revenge to something really profound, a story of redemption. Let's fast forward a bit to see what happened to Emily and her healthy baby girl Grace over the next year. Emily never went back to Kingston Technologies. Instead, she took everything she learned and built her own highly successful consulting firm right out of the ashes. And just look at the stark contrast between the two. While Kingston's whole model ran on fear, intimidation, and sweeping misconduct under the rug, Emily built a company operating on the core belief that people are literally your greatest investment. Instead of toxic office politics, she actually rewarded honesty. Instead of firing pregnant staff, she offered flexible schedules and paid parental leave. And unsurprisingly, it quickly became one of the fastest-growing firms in the country. In fact, a ton of her former Kingston coworkers actually flocked over to work for her. Which leaves us with this incredibly powerful quote from Emily. Years later, she was speaking at a huge national leadership conference. Someone in the crowd asked her what she would say today to the man who tried to destroy her career. Her reply? "I don't hate him. Hate keeps you connected to the past. I chose something better. I moved forward. And that's why I won." It is such a brilliant core lesson, isn't it? That true integrity always outlasts wealth, and that you can absolutely turn the pain of a massive betrayal into an unstoppable sense of purpose. So, I want to leave you with one final thought today. Because character always outlives wealth. Ask yourself this. When you're faced with a deep betrayal or just overwhelming adversity, will you let it break you, or will it be the exact reason you finally discover your true strength? Keep that in mind as you navigate your own challenges this week. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we will definitely see you in the next one.